we're here on the exterior. We're on the passenger side of your vehicle. So you'll see right here at the passenger entrance, you see these little red and black. Pull that off. There is a little jump stud right under there. Make sure you keep these little guys on there, right? But because they are slightly exposed to the elements, even though they seal, you should take about once a month some dielectric grease. Smear that dielectric grease all over this little guy, and then close this back up. It'll just keep them from corroding, keep them nice and fresh next time you need to go use them. The actual batteries themselves are under this passenger seat, and you can also see the bars for retracting the slide outs in there. Now, you shouldn't really need to access those batteries, but still typically, just like we were saying, about once a month, we do recommend that you check them, inspect that they're not swollen, you know, they're not leaking, they're not swollen, that the cables are all tight. And I know you guys do like a voltage check on them, so you should do that as well. So just remember they're under there, and you can go right off the little stud right there. Now, hidden kind of up in here, you can see there are two little thermal breakers and a little bus bar that goes between them, little breakers. Those will be for your auxiliary battery boost. They don't use a fuse anymore, they use those little breakers. So if you do that battery boost that I showed you on the dash, you do it too many times. Remember I said you need to go jump start it. If you keep doing it and you don't listen to what I told you and you keep trying to start it, eventually you'll pop those little breakers. So you have to just, I'll show you when we get to another compartment. You can reset them really easily. Don't just reset them and keep trying again, right? You're gonna burn them up or cause damage to something else further down the line. As for the slide outs you can see right here, they are nice and clean right now. You want to keep them that way. Don't put them in and out a bunch of times with a bunch of filth on them. Over time, you're going to destroy this little rubber seal back here. It's called a wipe seal, and it's what wipes the water off as it's coming in, right? So if you keep letting it get dirty, it's eventually going to wear it out, and you're going to have issues when your slide out closes. The little access door under here. See inside there is a lovely fuel tank. It says this is a 70-gallon fuel tank, and it does warn you, do not exceed, let's see what this one says, do not exceed 95% capacity. So don't fill this thing up till it's right to the bottom of the neck. Typically it's just like your car. Put it in there all the way so that the diesel fill is all the way down in. Once it clicks off, stop filling it, don't top it off. Now you may be thinking about adding anti-gels, all kinds of stuff like that, heat. Things get rid of moisture. I will always recommend that you contact International first. They're going to tell you what you can and cannot put inside the fuel tanks. If you put something inside this thing that's not meant to go in it, some sort of additive or off-brand, and it causes issues, they'll know. They'll check, right? So just make sure you don't put anything crazy inside of it that's not diesel. So once again, diesel goes in these tanks. There's one on the other side by the driver's area. This is a diesel tank here as well. Don't put DEF fluid in the diesel tanks. So don't add anything but diesel. We're going to step back to the next compartment. The light's not on. So this next compartment is very, very important. You're going to see on the right hand side, these are your auxiliary batteries. Now they are technically maintenance free batteries, so there's no fluid that you have to check, no distilled water inside of them, right? But you should need to check, you do need to check them about once a month. Once again, check, make sure they don't look swollen all the way around it. The cables are all nice and snug. We put a protective battery coating on them, right? You should technically wipe that off and reapply once a month. Don't just keep adding layer and layer to it, because it gets dirty and then you add some on top of it. So make sure there's no corrosion, anything like that. Now you notice they do go to this like deck plate, these studs in the walls. You need to make sure those are tight as well. Now you'll notice there is a label on each side that says no storage. You cannot store anything in these compartments that can interfere with the operation of the batteries or touch those studs back in there. Now if you did decide there was something you needed to put in this compartment, it can't be damaged by heat, it cannot, or it has to be bolted down in place and secured. So if you decide to put something in there, it's got to be secured. Don't put it, just drop it in there, don't shove your bag in there, you're going to cause issues. In the left-hand side, this is an actually very important thing. They're labeled Converter 1 and Converter 2, the silver boxes there. So remember on the power panel, I told you that there was those two converter breakers that you need to make sure are on anytime you're running the generator or the vehicle's plugged in. Those are the converters. So they're what are charging the batteries. They also trickle charge the batteries, so they have a smart charger built into them. So if you plug the vehicle in, turn on that converter breaker, these will do a nice little float charge. keep your batteries nice and charged, and next time you go to start it, it's ready to go, right? So there's not much that can go wrong with them. They're a commercial brand, they're Iota. The only thing that really can go wrong with them, let's say you realize that you turned them on and your voltage has dropped inside and for some reason they're not charging. There are 2 little fuses on each one of them. They're little 40 amp fuses. Check those first before anything else. The next thing you should check, sounds like common sense. You see how they're plugged in right now? If you unplug them, they don't work. So it's a basic rule of thumb. Typically when you deal with one of our vehicles, if you find something that is plugged in, it's plugged in for a reason. If it's not plugged in, you should probably A, question why it's not, and B, find out why it's not before plugging it back in. But that's an easy one right there. If for some reason, emergency situations, you don't have a short cord adapter, you don't have anything available to charge it, you can technically run an extension cord over and plug one of the converters in. It's not going to be able to be controlled through the power panel anymore, but you could at least plug it in and charge the batteries. It'll still do the exact same thing float charging wise, so you're not interfering with that at all. The red knob and the yellow knob, those are actually motorized switches. So when you use the battery boost to the left of the steering column, or you turn on the auxiliary battery disconnect, that's what those go to. So when you push the battery boost, that yellow switch is actually labeled emergency parallel. It will turn and connect both banks of batteries together. Now the one above it, if you push the auxiliary battery disconnect inside, it will turn as well, right? There's different settings for those switches. So if you take that switch and turn it manually, there is a manual on, a manual off, an auto on, and an auto off. If you turn it to either of the manuals, it's not going to do what you want it to do when you try to start the vehicle and charge the batteries or turn the generator on or the converters. If you put it in, like say off mode, start the vehicle, drive down the road, it's not touching these batteries at all back here. They're not going to charge. You're going to find that they're dead all the time. Same thing goes the other way around. If you turn it off and you're running the generators all the time and you left the headlights on, these converters aren't even putting the charge to the batteries because you interfered with it. So never turn those unless you know what you're doing first. And if you do need to turn them, push in on them firmly, turn them slowly. If you turn them without pushing in, the gears inside the little motor are still engaged. If you turn it too fast, you're going to just strip them right out. So next time you go to put that button inside, nothing happens, or it happens randomly, it's because you stripped it out. So don't touch them otherwise. Now above that are really, really important breakers, and one's labeled inverter, well sorry, yeah, that one's labeled inverter, ignition fuse block, leveling jacks, generator, and generator. Now those are what we refer to as low thermal breakers. If you have low batteries, of course, right? Low batteries create high amps. High amps creates high heat. Those little breakers will just trip. And what they look like when they trip is, we'll flip one right now. A little black flag just lifted up right on top. See that? This one has a yellow one. This one's black. What that indicates, your batteries were too low and you tried to do one of these applications. Now what you need to do, plug the vehicle in, get charging again, get the generator running if it wasn't the generator breaker that tripped, or plug the vehicle in. Once the batteries are charged, click it back in place. Now let's see if I can get my hand back out. All right, so that's as simple as that. Don't just reset them and try it again. A set of batteries, especially like these deep cycle batteries, they're not considered fully charged once you drain them, right? They're not considered fully charged until they charge for 48 hours. So if you just manage to get this thing jump started and you go to your next site or whatever you're doing and you drive for 2 hours and shut her back down, you didn't charge the batteries at all. So the next time you go to start it, it may not start. Got to charge the batteries back up. So just be aware of that as well. So there's your little lock for your door. We're of course having to get the cover we're going to look into. 50, 25, 50 right now. Of course you guys know how to use one of these, but you turn it to power it up. It looks like, I think I might have locked it or something right now. Or half locked it. It's not shut. It's default open. Is it? It's locked open. For your steps, now they do have a nice little hinge point here where the bolt comes through. You should lubricate that about once a month because it is exposed to the element. You can take that quickie loop that I saw you pull out of the cabinet earlier. It's that little red can. You just spray a little bit on each side, wipe off the excess. Just do that about once a month. Now when you go to close this thing and open this thing, it does have quite a bit of force. As you can see, it pulled me towards it. Don't use the handle of the door to open this step. If you continuously use this handle, you're going to damage it, and then we got to replace it, of course. So pop it open, use your other hand to pull it, and then lower it down slowly. Don't just drop it, set it down gently. Same thing with the neb step, don't drop it, just set it down gently. There's that much to it. It's pretty straightforward. Now you can actually lock that handle on that door if you're worried someone's going to open it or unfold it. That door just locked just like all the other doors. Same key for all of these style paddle latches.